Hey guys, happy Saturday with y'all. Thanks for joining us in today on another episode of H&H. Today we have another good show for you planned. It's our annual, as What If Sports annual national championship talk, level 5 bowls, that kind of thing. I got my usual partner in crime here, HuskerFan26. Hey bud, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How goes it?
Hey, it's pretty good over here. It's 56 degrees, nice and warm. Just got back from some CPR training, and now I'm drinking a nitro stout from Breckenridge Brewery, so I'm doing pretty good.
Nice.
We are also joined today, folks, by Jay Hunters, coach at Northern Iowa. Coach, how you doing today?
We're hanging in there. I had to work this morning myself and just taking it easy watching the dogs this afternoon.
There you go. Do you get off tomorrow and get to enjoy the Super Bowl and all that fun?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, good deal.
Sunday's my only day off, so.
You're only guaranteed day off.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, I hear you on that. So today, guys, we're gonna kind of go over, real briefly, touch on the happenings today for D1A and D1AA. That's the level 4 bowls and the playoff semifinals. We'll then touch on a couple of the games for as far as level 5 bowls at D1, and then obviously talk about the national championship. Briefly touch on Kaz 1007's post in the Wilkinson forums about having Troy State highly rated. We're going to debate whether or not maybe we think Troy State can make the national championship next year. And then we'll dive into D1AA a little bit more and talk about their national championship, their semi-final playoff games, and things like that. So to kick us off, Husker fan, there were actually a couple close games here at level 4. Seems like there's kind of been sporadic close games throughout all the playoffs. Otherwise, kind of like D1AA, a lot of blowouts. So what did you think of the level 4 bowl games today?
There were two that I had my eye on that I figured, things would get interesting in the second half, and both of them involved MP. It was one with his LSU team, and the other one was UCLA. And the LSU squad, they were down at the half by I think 10 points to Wisconsin, and I think Wisconsin made it to the conference title because they beat one of the other elites from the other division, and I think they beat Michigan with sea break. So they were a decent team this season. And when they were up on LSU, I was like, okay, this should be interesting to see how this goes in the second half. But then I guess MP talked to his boys and they managed to get back in the game and took the game to overtime, where they managed to stop Wisconsin and finally pull out the W. And it was a good game. When you look at the stats, it doesn't look as if it was that close because I think MP really like sort of shut him down in the second half to the point where he managed to open up a lead when you look at the stats. And then with the Florida game and UCLA, MP was down in that one, and I was like, Eesh, this might be a tough one for him to come back from because I played Florida this year and I think I lost to them by a score or two. So I know that he has a decent squad over there in Florida. I expected, oh, wait, my bad. UCLA was up on Florida.
I wasn't gonna call you out, but I was gonna. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Hey man, they are both blue. I looked at them and I was like, wait a minute, this is blue. Which blue? That blue? It's all blue to me, okay? My brain is on vacation. It froze. The polar vortex froze my brain. It's not my fault.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, I had UCLA. UCLA was winning at the half, and Florida was down. And I knew Florida was a good team because I played them earlier. But then at the same time, I know MP and his UCLA team. I think last season he managed to pull off a few upsets, and I think the same is true of him this season. So I expected him to finish the game off. But then once we got to the fourth quarter, I guess Porter sat down with these guys and gave them some gator meat, and they decided to stop him and then just pile on the points and manage to pull off the win. So I don't know how MP feels about winning one from a losing position and losing one from a winning position.
Yeah, that's got to be tough, but it's got to be hard to game plan for two big games on the same day, something like that. I couldn't imagine, like, even when I'm doing Wilkinson playoffs and when I was, or in Leahy, sometimes they, um, or no, they don't overlap. But when I have two worlds that kind of overlap, it's hard to game plan for playoffs and then try to get ready for a conference title or whatever. So I couldn't imagine trying to do level 2, level 4 bowls. A couple of things to note on those, like Wisconsin, like you're talking about. Wayne Miller's done pretty consistent there here at Wisconsin. He's won 3 out of his 4 bowls. Well, until today, lost that one. He did, like you said, he had some big wins. He beat 3 out of the 4 humans he played in non-conference. He beat Nortonis, and then he marched through everybody in conference except for Kinsey, and then barely lost the conference championship, and then in overtime today. So that's back-to-back heartbreaking losses by a combined 9 points. That's got to be tough for him, but, I mean, great season again out of Wisconsin, because that's not an easy place to recruit out of with with the rest of the Big Ten being full like that. And then the UCLA, you kind of touched on it too. Last year, I think they were, I don't remember if he ended up getting. I think he ended up getting Coach of the Year nomination, didn't he? Or he was. I thought he was in the running maybe. But he had 2 close losses this year. Paul Subelak by 3, and then obviously today by 7. But he beat teams like Schooley and Husker 1-11 at Temple, and he beat Washington, Lions fan. That's always a tough one. He did have that bad loss to USC, but those are a couple of stout teams that he played, and another good year out of him. So UCLA is also a tough place, kind of like Wisconsin there. You're kind of sandwiched in with some recruiting as far as you got USC right in your own neighborhood. But yeah, those were some great games, and pretty much the only 2 that were games today for level 4s.
Hey, what about my game?
Well, I mean, it wasn't super close, so.
Hey, I was worried.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, anytime you get a mid-major, they can be kind of pesky and kind of bring out all the stops, I suppose. But, I mean, you put up almost 700 yards of offense, 300 both on the ground and passing. I think it looks like you did pretty okay. Let's move on to the level 5 games today, or that are going to be played tomorrow. Excuse me. Either of you, or I guess let's start with Husker Fan 26. Is there any games that you're kind of looking at that you might think might be good games?
Well,
Besides from the national championship, obviously, we'll get to that one.
I'm now fully on board Troy State. I want them to win everything now, so I'm hoping that they're able to beat the Canes. I'm really sorry about that, LSU Saints, but I just want to see them succeed, and I think I have them making the national title from one of my posts earlier this season. And then Ohio State and USC, that should be a good matchup. And an all Florida matchup, South Florida and FSU. FSU has been resuscitated, shall we say. I think it's JJL 8 or 58 or something.
Yep.
Who's there? He has managed to get FSU back on track and have them in the conversation for respectable elites, considering it's FSU and how tough it is there. He has been doing well. South Florida and J9, he always usually brings it. He has been giving me fits and problems over in Hayes, so I always expect him to do well. Yukon and the Irish, that should be an interesting one to keep an eye. I mean, all of them are good matchups to sort of keep an eye on. I think they'll be somewhat close at the half, probably each will be within a score or 2 at the half.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on a couple of those. For me, I really like the Ohio State USC game. Actually, I think the way that Roxy has had Ohio State rolling, I think that'll be interesting facing up against the always perennial, always tough, easy 37. Both quarterbacks for those teams have thrown for over 5,000 yards. Ohio State is averaging almost 3 interceptions per game, so that'll be interesting to see is if they can get the turnovers that they need against a quarterback who really hasn't thrown any all year and has thrown for a boatload of yards. And then I like that Notre Dame UConn matchup as well. Both quarterbacks there have thrown for over 4,000 yards, no interceptions, excuse me. And then both running backs actually have run for over 2,200 yards, which kind of a decent balance there and a lot of offense, it seems like, in that game. Kind of touching what you touched on those Florida schools, I am intrigued with what he's done, JJL has done at Florida State as well, because they were, for a while, kind of the laughingstock of the elites, if you will. Looked like they were going through coaches every couple of years because no one could get him back on track, and ever since he's taken over, they've done really well. And Miami kind of looks like they're recovering from that same sort of situation where that coach that kind of just jumped in out of nowhere, and I don't remember his name, but and then in his first year, LSU Saint took them, I believe, and won the conference championship. So definitely looks like that ship is riding as well. But both the Florida, a couple of Florida schools seem to be going through hard times, kind of like real life, which is kind of ironic. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Jay Hunters, to the level 5 games that you're looking at?
Well, I'm sure hoping that somebody brings the Knowles back. I'm a Knowles fan myself, so I'm hoping. I've whenever I was thinking about moving up, that was one of them I was looking at possibly taking. But all I keep hearing about is, like you say, they're the worst elite to have. So that kind of made me reconsider. I don't know. I might still do it at some point, but I finally moved up. I think in Dobie, I took Connecticut. So
Okay.
I'm putting my toes in the water to try it out, see how I like it. So I've got one of my aliases here in Wilkinson that's ready to, I think, move up to Division I next season. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
and
hoping
Florida State
get
is
in.
tough, but it depends on the world you're in too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had him in Hayes, and I think I finished with like 10 or so straight top 10 finishes, level 5 bowl wins, and I think over that time 6 or 7 conference championships. So it's a lot dependent on who you're recruiting against, obviously in the area, because you do have Alabama's right on your doorstep. LSU will sometimes come into the Panhandle, and obviously the other two Florida elites. And then if you got somebody in Georgia, that's even more. But if you can navigate it and you seem like a pretty smart recruiter. I think anybody who's intelligent enough about recruiting can succeed at Florida State. You just got to work your way around and get the guys you need to get close, and then just kind of branch out, which is kind of true of everywhere else. But Florida State is definitely a different animal in itself.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping that like I said, that they'll pull it out. I like J9. He's a good coach. I've won against him at Texas State quite a bit. Schooley, I think, he probably has a little bit of an edge on Kinsey. I think this season, I think he'll probably pull that out. Like I said, Ohio State USC is going to be a good game. I think Troy State will beat Miami. He's been there a little bit longer. I don't think LSU Saint has quite what he wants there yet. He's got him going in the right direction, but doesn't have all the players, that he's went after.
Right.
So that's kind of the way I see him going.
Yeah, fair enough. I think there'll be some good games out of there. Hopefully, a little more entertaining than overall that the bowl season has been. Tying real quick into the level 5 games, we talked about Macbeth BR, and then Kaz had that post on the forums here, I think either last night or today, here he thinks he has Macbeth, at number 2 or number 3 next year. I'm assuming that means he's expecting them to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country, maybe finish 1 or 2 or 3, top 3 depending on their strength of schedule. I haven't really looked for next year. But we kind of briefly, Husker fan, you touched on it. You think Troy State could be in the national championship next year. Jay Hunters, I don't know how much you pay attention to D1AA so much, but do you think it's possible for a mid-major to make it into the national championship, especially here in Wilkinson?
I don't foresee it. I'm looking at his non-conference for next season, and he's basically got number 20 Miami, Ohio, that's got a 12-3 record this season. He's playing Arizona State, who went 9-5. Red Hat at Wyoming, that's 9-5. The other two have losing records. Oklahoma State and Boise State. I don't see those really helping him. I don't know that Miami of Ohio, even though they have a decent record, whether that's really going to help his strength of schedule to begin with. Then in conference, what he faces: Army, New Mexico State, North Texas. They're all, nothing's, flashing at me that says, the strength of schedule is going to have him there.
Right, yeah, and I'm kind of on board with you too. Don't get me wrong, Macbeth is an absolute fantastic coach. I've been playing against him a lot lately. He was in the Leahy Big Ten. We got each other in Rockney, so I've been playing him a lot lately, and just an absolutely fantastic coach, fantastic recruiter. But I'm kind of with you. Seeing that the Sun Belt, obviously next year is a little different than this year, but no one else in the Sun Belt finished ranked other than Troy State, so he's not really getting enough help, I wouldn't think, from conference schedule standpoint. And then you're right. I think that out of conference with the two teams in the losing record isn't going to be quite enough to get him in. I think maybe he had a decent BCS school or two probably that finished in the mid-teens, or even an elite that was maybe lower, like Miami or something that finished lower. I think maybe he's got a shot, but I'm kind of with you. I think the SOS isn't going to quite be there to get him in. Husker fan, do you have a rebuttal to that at all?
I wish I did because I picked him to make it next season. And this was before the season got going, and I fully expected him, the guys that he has on his schedule for next season, to do better than they did this season, especially Boise and Oklahoma State. But I'm it'll be tough considering that when the first rankings come out, you're going to have the elites, taking the first 14 spots, and then he needs all the help he can get to break through into, like, the top tens, and then try and work his way towards the sharp end of the rankings. And the non-conference, looking at it, the records from this, and like you guys already talked about, he won't get any much help from that. And then the conference itself, you won't be getting a whole lot of help from them. So it's going to be tough, but I'm holding out hope for him.
Yeah, well, that's fair. And I mean, a coach like that could obviously do it. My other point to add real quick before we move on here is, it'd be different if you were getting maybe one undefeated team or no one was going undefeated. Then he's got a shot as a mid-major because he doesn't have to worry about
Yep.
beating out an equal record elite team or something like that. But this year we had 4 undefeated teams, 3 of them are elites. I mean, Troy State is never ever going to win that battle against any of those 3, regardless of his strength of schedule, unless it maybe was like he had the number 1 strength of schedule to an 80th ranked strength of schedule or something like that. But as we've discussed, I don't think he has the strength of schedule to get it there. I would love to see him do it. I would love to see him in major win it. I just don't think it's going to be possible.
I think I have a solution for him.
What's that?
What he needs to do is get Texas, Alabama, and USC on his schedule, because one of those 3 almost every season is going to make the national title game. He gets one of those 3 or all 3 of them on his schedule, gives them a loss, that gives him a leg up on them in the race to make the national title game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think going all out and going all 3 is a wise idea, but definitely getting 1 on there is probably a good idea. Maybe 2 if you could find one in a little bit of a down year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should look at Tennessee, maybe.
Hey. I thought we were friends here. What happened?
Yeah, well, he felt bad that you beat the crap out of this mid-major you played today. He thinks you need to have a real challenge or something. I don't know.
Step
That
it
was
up a little bit.
that was the real challenge for me, okay, guys?
All right, let's move on to this national championship game, which I am very, very, very excited about. I am almost tempted to watch this game before I even watch any of my Westcasts overnight because I think you have 2 of the most fantastic coaches in the game, 2 pretty fantastic leads. Obviously, Texas being one of the best, if not the best, some would say. And Alabama is a fantastic place to recruit from, and I know that Z32 knows that area pretty well. He coached a couple other Alabamas, in recent times. So, Husker fan, let's start with you. What are you most excited for about this game, or what did you notice about the game, that kind of thing?
I want to see how the Texas defense is able to hold up against the Bama offense, because in my opinion, his offense top notch. They can steamroll anybody on any given day, and I think he has been at Bama long enough to where he has fully implemented his philosophy. He has gotten his guys on the roster, and they are out here executing for every single game. I faced him earlier this season, and I tried to game plan, and then I was halfway through game planning for the first half, and I was like, "What am I doing? Why am I wasting my time?" So then I just stopped and let it roll. And I know on the recruiting trail, I bump into him every now and again, and I'm like, "Don't waste money. You just look somewhere else." So I know Bama, well-oiled machine. They're ready to go. And then on the other side, I know Jason Freeman has a game plan that has worked when he was at Cal. It worked when he was at Tennessee for a season, and it has been working with Texas. And now he has extra talent. He has studs all around. So I fully expect this one to be, a field goal. At least, just one field goal at half, And then I'll be interested to see the adjustments that these guys are going to be making at the half because they both run, they both throw, and they do both of those things well enough. So it should be a fun game to watch, especially considering Texas what they went through this season to get to this point. They only played two humans in non-conference, decent guys, decent coaches, and then when you look at the conference, they pretty much none of the games are really close enough for you to be like, someone, I can look at this game and see what this other coach did to try and slow him down. He just sort of steamrolled through everybody, especially that Oklahoma game. I was surprised by that one. I expected it to be a little bit closer, but it wasn't. And now, he made it all the way to the national title game. And I think safe money Safe money is on Jason Freeman always in Texas, but I've seen Alabama up close a few times to know what they're capable of, and I think this should be a close one.
Yeah, it's hard to always bet against Z32, especially the way he pumps out national championships, right?
Yeah, like every world is just out here. I don't know how big his trophy cabinet is at this point in time, but I think he needs to stop collecting them because I think he might have a problem as a hoarder. So I think we need to do an intervention of some sort because I think he needs some help, guys. We need to get together and help him so that he stops hoarding conference titles and national titles. And sharing is caring. He needs to share some of these titles with everybody else because I think he does care about us.
Yeah, it seems like it, constantly winning those national titles. I'm sure he really cares that you are sad about losing all the time. Jay Hunters, do you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I'm trying to figure out how in the world this Vegas line says it's Alabama's favored by 18 and a half points. I mean, where do they come up with these things? Because to me, it's a like I say, I think whoever has the best kicker, and so far I see Texas has a senior kicker, so I'd say Texas is going to win over a sophomore kicker for Alabama.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
But my Iowa State just lost with a senior kicker who missed 2 field goals to a sophomore kicker who nailed a 53-yarder to win it. Just throwing that
wow.
out there. Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. One thing I kind of thought was interesting is how much both these teams rely on their running backs. They're both the leading receivers for their respective teams, and they both run a lot, as Husker fan kind of touched on, and they both running backs have over 20 rushing touchdowns on the game, on top of being the leading wide receiver. So it's going to be whose linebackers and or safeties, whatever they end up doing on defense, can hold up better against that. And then, we see so many teams with 0 interceptions by their quarterbacks pretty much all year, but both defenses averaging nearly 2 interceptions a game. So can someone maybe get that lucky turnover off of the backup or maybe get a fumble here and there? Because I think it's going to come down to who can get a turnover. I don't think there will be a lot, but a turnover and or, like you guys kind of touched on, is maybe who can get the last possession and go down and kick a field goal. I personally think my pick right now is Alabama beating Texas, as much as that's blasphemy to say. Bama 37-34. They're both fantastic coaches. I just think Z32 has a system that's dang near impossible to stop. Texas has had 2 close games. Alabama's only had 1, but otherwise both have rolled through the rest of their schedule, so it should make it an interesting matchup. Anything else you guys want to add to D1, or do you want to move on to the D1AA?
I
That's
think
all
we
I.
can move.
Say that again. You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we had our Final Four today. We had Villanova out of the East, Charleston Southern out of the West, St. Mary's out of the North, Texas Southern out of the South. Weirdly enough, both scores were settled by the same margin for the exact same amount. I got them both right. I will toot my own horn there real quick. St. Mary's beat Texas Southern, and Villanova beat Charleston Southern. So our national championship today for D1AA is going to be Villanova and St. Mary's. But before we get to that, Jay Hunters, looking at these games today, what did you notice or what did you take away from what happened today?
Well, I was kind of surprised. I really thought Nova would roll on Charleston. I didn't expect it. Charleston State had the lead at half. I mean, it was only by 1 point, but really it should have been by a little bit more because they Nova came back and I think kicked a field goal right there at the end of the first half to get within 1 point, and then Charleston had them on the ropes in the second half. And it took Nova to come back in the fourth quarter to win the game. And Villanova manhandled my UNI squad,
Yeah.
and I thought I had a decent team. I didn't, it was going to take a little bit extra for me to win it. I think I needed some luck. I don't think I quite had the team, but I was crossing my fingers in every game. But I didn't see that coming, and his defense just stopped me. I mean, no matter what I did and made any kind of adjustments, and it didn't work. So I just really thought he'd kind of do the same thing with Charleston State, but they run a little bit different offense than I do. They run a trips, whereas I run pro. We run the same 3-4 defense, but I was kind of surprised that Charleston really gave them a heck of a game. I just figured Nova would kind of roll them and stop them in their tracks and move on to the championship round. So I don't know if maybe that might give St. Mary's a little bit of something to look at, or.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was surprised by your game too, especially with I kind of mentioned it in the Final Four post I did. How Villanova started with barely leading at half, and I know it's half and it's early and sometimes sims don't happen right, but when I saw Villanova struggling in the first round, I was like, okay, they'll make quarterfinals. He's got a good enough team for that, but I don't know how much they can do after that. And then what he did to you, and then pulling it out against Charleston Southern too, I was surprised. I am kind of with you on the Charleston Southern boat. I really thought once I got past my second round, I had a pretty good shot at coming out of my bracket. I thought my second round would be my toughest challenge, to be honest, and Charleston Southern shut me down. Like, I thought what my adjustments should have been at halftime would have worked. They didn't work. His defense was fantastic. Like I said, it did, special teams didn't help me at all either, but, that's why we play the game. That's something I should, that can be overcome if you're moving the ball correctly, and he just did a fantastic job at stopping me, and his defense, did the same thing against Villanova, because Nova did they put up 45 on you? Is that what they put up yesterday?
Yeah, 47.
47, and he held him to barely over 300 yards today, and 27 points. So, I mean, he's got a good defense. So, but I was kind of with you on that. And then I saw Nova match up, and I thought maybe that defense would kind of hang around, but I expected the second half to open up a little bit too. And yeah, that was a great game, and both teams hung around. Both teams, I thought either one could have really played for the national championship if the cards would have fallen right, but they ended up getting matched against each other. But that was a fun game to watch. I watched the Westcast on that too, and I was getting pretty into it. And then for the other side, you got St. Mary's and Texas Southern. What'd you think of that game?
I kind of went pretty much how I thought it would be. My buddy's Mike Z, and I've talked to him and played him a number of times in the past. We was always going against each other, and then shared a few information and back and forth. And actually, he's even recruited for me when I wasn't able to recruit. But I figured St. Mary's had the upper hand here. Schooley's got a lot of good things going there at St. Mary's, and he's no stranger to going deep in the playoffs. He's been there a number of times, knows what to expect, knows what he needs out of his team. I was kind of surprised at the first half. I thought it would be a close game, but I did really think that St. Mary's would pull it out. So it didn't surprise me to see Mikesy come back in the second half, make some adjustments. He's pretty good at that. And like I said, just kind of fell a little bit short. I didn't get to dive deep into that game. I really kind of looked at the Villanova game because it just kind of intrigued me more. So I didn't, I don't know what ended up becoming of the second half of it. But it looks like third down is what killed him. 8 for 23 on third downs. Yeah, if you can't convert, any more than that, then yeah, that's going to put them
not convert them, but you're getting stuck in that many third downs. That's a lot of third downs to try to have to convert.
Yep.
But yeah, I was kind of with you. I was surprised at half. I did expect both games to be very tight at half, which the one was. I did expect this one to be tight as well, and I saw the score and I was like, well, that's a little bit surprising, and I'm kind of with you on that too. I did expect Texas Southern to make it a game, which they did. Just too little, too late, couldn't quite get it done. and I was surprised St. Mary's ran the ball as much as they did. They've always kind of been more 50-50, but I mean he only completed less than 50% on those 25 pass attempts anyway. So, I mean, good call out of Schooley to go heavier run. I mean, he averaged over 5 yards per carry, which anytime you're doing that with all your backs is pretty good. So good game out of that. And then we got our final now, St. Mary's Nova. And Husker fans, since you haven't really talked in a while, what are you looking for in the D1AA National Championship?
For me, I think safe money is on St. Mary's. Their quarterbacks. There's a senior and a junior in comparison to Nova, who have a junior and a sophomore going. So I think the safe money will be on St. Mary's solely based on that. But then at the same time, I think Nova really, really, really wants to retain their title. And I think if they do that this season, safe money will be on them doing it again next season. But after watching, because I watched the Nova semifinal against CSU today, and at one point I was like, are they going to really lose? And then they were like, nah, not today. We want to retain our title. So based off that, I think it's safe to say it will be a close game. St. Mary's has the talent for quarterbacks, but I think Nova might have an extra playbook, an extra game plan buried somewhere that they're just going to pull out and unleash on St. Mary's to make it a close game. But for me, I'm going with St. Mary's in this one.
Okay, fair enough. I think decent call. What do you got to say to that, Jay Hunters?
I actually kind of agree. Like I said, I really thought Nova was impressing me to, after my loss to them. Not to say that, like I said, I'm the bar to beat by any stretch of imagination, but after my game, I really just thought he was going to roll the rest of the way, and then seeing him kind of run into some problems with Charleston State, that kind of made me question it. And just seems like Schooley's got St. Mary's just on a good roll right now, and like I said, he's usually pretty balanced on offense, and which makes him harder to stop. And obviously, he made the right decisions as far as his game against Texas Southern, is switching to a running game and just pounding the rock, and it worked out for him. That could it could come back and bite you in the butt, if you can't move the ball, and then 3 and outs. But he seems to be making all the right moves right now. So yeah, I'd have to say right now I'm going to give the edge to Schooley at St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a somewhat close game, but I think St. Mary's is going to pull it out.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm going to contradict you both. I'm going Nova on this one, and I'm going like a 33-28 game. Every time I think it's going to be high scoring, it's not. So I'm going to kind of shoot middle of the road there. And what I'm noticing is what I think will be an interesting matchup is SMU's offense versus Nova's defense. SMU's running back is number 3 in total yards rushing and number 4 in touchdowns. The wide receiver Miller is number 4 in yards, total receiving yards, and number 8 in touchdowns. That's going up against three defensive players from Villanova who have 7 interceptions. So it's going to come down to, can he get the couple turnovers? Can he get those, the bend but don't break defense? I mean, these two teams met last year in the semifinals. Nova ended up pulling that game off. He needed some good adjustments, which he best believes Schooley has learned from that, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting to see at half what both these teams decide to do. I think first half will definitely be close, and then it'll be interesting to see how they adjust. And then I think just on sheer talent, Nova's got his guest roster is number 7 to St. Mary's number 16, so a decent gap. Obviously not enough to maybe make it a significant margin, but I think accompanied with experience with having played each other and that little bit edge on talent, I'm actually taking Nova on this one. But St. Mary's does have the strength of schedule, so that always, I feel like, kind of gives a team a boost too, because they've consistently played tough games. They've consistently known what it takes to win. Obviously, Nova knows what it takes to win. He's gone through playoffs, and done it last year and all that good stuff. Just not as much competition this year.
And he must. If you look at Kaz's, he's really loaded up on the strength of schedule for next season.
Yeah, I actually hadn't taken a look. Who does he got? Let me see.
Yeah, I think every team that he got is ranked for next season.
Yep, he's got 5 ranked teams, and all of them obviously double-digit wins or better. Yeah, and he's got 3 of them on the road, so he's definitely not holding back there.
No, I think he's confident, and he's going to show everybody who's on top.
Yeah, especially if he's able to get it again this year, right? On top again 2 years in a row, and then if he's able to get through that schedule again, yeah, that'll be interesting to see. We kind of have, I kind of like that things have changed a little bit on D1AA. It's not always the same teams. I mean, Villanova and St. Mary's have been pretty consistent, Final Four, but even they've had quarterfinals and previous appearances. What I love about D1AA is it doesn't always seem to be one team anymore. You know what I mean? For a little bit, it was always Northern Iowa, then it was always Texas Southern, and then it was like Jacksonville State before that. We always seem to have a dynasty going at D1AA, and I love right now that it's not really that. I mean, anyone could, given any given day, beat just about anyone, at least at the top, probably top 10 or so teams that are in the league. I think we've got a lot of parity there at the top, which I really enjoy. It makes D1AA a little more fun. It'd be nice if the whole league could even out, or we could get some more coaches, because I think we only sit in the 30s. But it is what it is, and maybe we'll continue to get and build off of that. Do you guys have anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to discuss? Maybe off topic or anything else?
Go Rams.
Yeah, I agree that.
What's wrong with both of y'all?
It's hard, like I said in the previous podcast, it's hard as a Nebraska fan to root against Rex Burkhead. I'd love to see him get a ring, but I'd also like to see Sue get a ring, and I just don't like Tom Brady, so there's that.
Why do you hate Tommy Terrific? The boy is terrific. Why do you hate perfection? Come on now.
He just makes it so easy.
Right?
That's why I like him. I feel like I could play quarterback at this point in time.
Well, the thing is, he sits there and he keeps saying it's team, but I'm pretty sure that if you take him away from that game, that it's going to increase the chances of the Rams winning by a big stretch.
Oh yeah, we without a doubt. He is that extra little bit that you need to take you over the top, because the New England, they have a system, and they just need to plug people in and out of the system. But if you take him out, then you still have the system, people doing what they need to do, but then he gives you that extra little, sprinkle of magic dust on top to take you over the top.
Something that I thought would be interesting is if you took Tom Brady out, if he got traded or whatever because free agent got moved, who do you think would find more success? Do you think Tom Brady in a decent team? Let's not say he goes to like the Rams or Kansas City or something that's already got a bunch of weapons. A decent team. Would they find more success? Would he find more success at the new team, do you think? Or do you think New England would find more success without Tom Brady?
New England will find more success without Brady. Because I think Belichick he'll plug a decent enough quarterback who will be able to do the job and get the job done to where they will make it into the playoffs. Then once you are in the playoffs, it's anybody's game. And all you need is, one missed call here and there, and you're going to the Super Bowl. So I would think that the Pats will still be okay. Hey, I'm just saying, one missed call here and there in a series of events, and you are in,
Yeah, and I don't know when we're going to hear the end of the Saints rebuttal right now, or their whole beef right now.
I don't know. I think if you took Brady away, I think it'd just be another, basically just like Peyton Manning went to the Broncos and took in the Super Bowl. So
that's a good one. Do you think he needs McDaniels? Do you think he needs that coordinator, or do you think it is all Brady?
I think it's a good combination of both, because if you look, whenever McDaniels left and went and took the head coaching job, his numbers and stuff went down. He was not, Tom Brady-ish at that point. They still won, but he didn't put up the numbers. The offense wasn't there that normally is there. So I think, like I said, it is a system, and they work good within it. But sounds like we might see it again, because I'm sure everybody's been talking to McDaniels again about trying to get him to head coach again. So
I'm very surprised he stayed there that long, honestly. I know he didn't do very well at Denver. I think when he went there, he wasn't quite ready. I think now, and a few more years and he's done it once, I think he would be ready now. I am surprised he hasn't gotten a job offer, at least something more concrete. And I'm also kind of surprised it took so long for their defensive coordinator to get it, because he does have a head coaching job, right? I'm not mistaken on that. The guy with the beard, their
Well,
defensive coordinator, has a head coaching job now.
I think he's
Yeah,
going
he's
to Miami.
Okay. I was gonna say I thought he's done pretty good too, and he was there for a long time. I was surprised it took him so long to get a head coaching job as well. I thought he did a fair job with, because I don't think the Patriots necessarily always focus on the defensive side of the ball. So what he was always able to do, I thought was pretty good.
yeah, he's working with band-aids.
Yeah, right. All right, fellas, you got anything else?
No,
Oh yeah. I just stay out of Tennessee when we're recruiting. Stay out of Tennessee and surrounding areas. And if there are any people who are thinking about picking up new teams, take a first look at the SEC. We welcome everybody with open arms, and we tend to have a good time. So come join the SEC.
I do think there are some good teams in the SEC. I think Georgia would be a good one, and while you're on it, I mean, heck, why not plug the Gateway? I mean, we got four playoff teams in that conference. We could use a fifth, come in and get some of the top playoff money in the country. We brought in a pretty good chunk again this year. We brought in a really good chunk last year. So if anyone from D2 or even D1AA is looking to move, we'd love to have you in the Gateway as well. All right, fellas. Good to talk to you today. Covered quite a bit. Good luck to everyone who's in their level 5 bowls and any of the national championships. Otherwise, guys, we will talk to you probably sometime in the off season, either about recruiting or something else. We're trying to maybe work in a D2 show you guys some love. We don't really talk that much, but it'd be kind of nice to throw that in there. So we'll see what we can come up with and keep y'all posted. Otherwise, everybody have a good weekend, and as we said, go Rams.
Go Pats.